It's a story about upstairs and downstairs, the servants and the aristocrats, or the upper class, and all the upstairs was shot first. So Tim had to wait to get the footage from the downstairs to integrate. And then
it was like the film was a checkerboard of scenes, and I had all the black squares before I had any of the white squares. It was these scenes, the above stairs, were shot in a real house, and all the servants' quarters were shot on a built set. And while a lot of the servants go upstairs, very few of these people go downstairs. So it's really kind of two different casts. So they shot one entirely and then the other entirely.
And the upstairs people always had a servant in the room. There was never a scene with just the upstairs people, because he identified with those. Because
that's
people.
what the movie's really about. Yeah. But going back to technical things, here's a scene with a whole room full of these people eating and having cross conversations. So watch this.
No, I grew up in Leicester. My father had a glove factory.
Really?
One thing I do know is how a glove should fit.
Really, darling, you're boring poor Mrs. Novella to death.
It was splendid.
No. I think he's going to explain that to me and kind of show me how...
So one of the problem in that scene, one of the rules, and it's the first thing you learn in film school, is about eye lines, which is if we're having a conversation and somebody's filming this and the shot of Bobbie is from here, so she's looking frame right at me, the shot of me couldn't be from here, it would have to be from here, so I'm looking frame left, so that if two people are looking at each other, one is looking off to the right side and the other is looking to the left side, because otherwise it's pretty disorienting.
So the camera has to actually stay within a 180 degree range, otherwise you get flipped.
And that's why these dinner table scenes are such a nightmare, because you're talking to this person, and then you're talking to this person, and then you're talking to that person. And so now you need three separate singles of me because of the three separate eye lines. And you can drive yourself crazy multiplying eye lines, and so you think very carefully about who's going to sit where and how's the interaction going to be. But these, it's sort of a classic example of a complicated scenes. The more people you put around the table and have them talking to each other, the number of shots you have to get normal coverage goes up exponentially. Of course, he didn't do that. This would be a 2-day scene, and they shot it in half a day. They just moved the cameras around, but the result is when she looks at her husband who's sitting across the table.
My father had a glove factory.
Really?
One thing I do know is how a glove should fit.
Really, darling, you're...
Okay, she's looking right at her husband.
Boring.
And he's looking right back at her. You're not supposed to do that. And I didn't have any choice. If I had had a choice, I would have done it differently, but I didn't have a choice because this is where we got it. This was by far the best performance he did of this particular motion, and the other I only had from that angle. So, because the cameras are moving around, they would shoot multiple takes as you always do, but from one take to the next, the camera's going down the whole table and just catching different things, whichever it catches, and wherever it is, it might go over there for his line, but in one take it'll be from this side, the next take it'll be from that side. So it's not sort of standard coverage where if you don't like take 4, you can just switch to take 7 and everything else is the same. Every scene's kind of a house of cards because you change that and it's a different angle, and now the cut to the next shot doesn't work anymore. So there was quite a while where I really thought I was losing my mind when I was putting this together. He was in England shooting and I was in New York putting it together, and we hardly talked during that process. So I was really on my own. But apparently it was sort of a running joke on set that, at the end of the day they'd say, "What do you think the editor's going to do with that?" Because this is such unusual footage, and English crews are notorious for being very picky about. I mean, Ang Lee had a crew on Sense and Sensibility almost go on strike one day because he wasn't going to go in for coverage on one section of a scene, because the sun was going to go down. He didn't have time, and he made the right choice, but it was a big deal. So they must have been having serious problems on this film because they just were not shooting anything like what you're supposed to shoot. in a movie. Now, the particular scene. Oh, one thing I wanted to talk also about is movement, camera movement. There's always camera movement. Everything we've seen so far, the camera movement is unmotivated. In fact, if you watch in this shot, if I go through it fast, you'll see we're dialing left, and then we get to the end of the dolly track, and so we go back the other way.
Just drifts. Sometimes it just like...
It's just moving.
For no reason.
it gets to the end of the dolly track, and so they walked over the other side and started pushing it back the other way. No reason. But there's other motion in the film where the camera movement is motivated.